y'all. Thanks for joining me again here on my YouTube channel, and thanks again to everyone who's been subscribing over the last few weeks. This is my third video related to my upcoming attempt to hike the Appalachian Trail here in 2022. And today I'm going to go over my final gear selection that I'm going to use for this attempt. I am by no means an expert on all of the gear that's out there on the market. But I've been hiking and backcountry camping for the past 30 years, and I know what works for me. I've watched tons of gear videos, read a lot about outdoor equipment, and listened to the advice and tips from real experts in the field. So that I could go out and purchase and try different gear and find out what really works for me. Of course, what works for me might not necessarily work for you, and that's with anything. What works for one hiker is probably not going to work for every hiker out there. We know that. I kind of use it in the same motto that we talk about, hike your own hike. I think we can extrapolate that out to mean pack your own pack. Basically, make it comfortable and functional to meet your own needs or whatever your desires are on the trail. So, with all that being said, let's get right into it. We'll start with the big three. Obviously, everybody talks about the big three, that being the backpack, the tent, and the sleep system. First, my backpack. A very popular backpack. I've been using this for the last few years. I've chosen the Z-Pack Arc Blast. It is a 55-liter backpack. I really like it. I've had the old REI Traverse Star. I used that for many years. I had an Osprey. I've had a few other North Face, things like that. But this one I have really come to respect and admire a lot over the last couple years. It has one big central compartment where most all your gear is going to go. It has this elastic pocket on the very what would be considered, I guess, the front or the back. Some people say the back, that you can put gear in. And then it has two side pockets here on the side. I also opted to buy two hip belt pockets, one on both sides of the belt here. And I tend to keep smaller things that I need quick access to. My phone, the water filter bottle that I'll be using, Sawyer water filter, a knife, and then snacks during the day. But this has been a great pack for me. It's very durable, and of course it's very lightweight. It has Dyneema fabric, and I've really enjoyed using it a lot. So I'm looking forward to using it for 2,200 miles. The second item of the big three is my tent. And again, I am going with Z-Pack's tent. It is very durable, very lightweight. I've had Kelties, MSRs. I still have a Nemo. I still have a Big Agnes tent, but this is the one that I've chosen for the AT. More because of being lightweight. There's no poles or framework to it. You're just using your trekking poles, and then you have guy wires that you stake out to the side. The drawback to this is that it is a single wall, so there can be condensation built up on the inside, but usually that can be prevented if you'll just open the flaps of your doors on both sides to get a little bit of ventilation. That can be problematic if it's 20 degrees outside, obviously, but that tends to do the trick for me, and you can prevent that condensation from building up on the inside. I would mention that in the Z-Pack tent, the only drawback to that are those side pockets. I tend to keep my water in those side pockets, and they can be a little cumbersome trying to get that in and out back there. You have to practice at that, but that would be the only negatives of these two items, being the condensation on the tent and the problem getting that water bottle out on the side. So yeah, let's move on to the third one. So third in the big three is the sleep system. And I transitioned from the mummy type sleeping bag to the sleeping quilt about 2 years ago, and I'll be starting later this month in February. So I went with the Enlightened Equipment Revelation quilt. It's rated down to 10 degrees. It has 950 fill down. It obviously weighs more, and to be honest, I might send it home later in the spring and trade it out for an older quilt that I have that's only 30 degrees, but obviously I won't need it in the warmer temps, and it's a lighter weight. Included in the system is the Thermarest Neo Air X Lite. It's comfortable, although it is a little noisy, I think, when turning from side to side. I am using it in the winter months, again, because of the R value and just keeping me a little warmer. Like the sleeping quilt, I may trade it out later in the spring. I have a Egg Crate Thermarest Z Lite, which doesn't make as much noise and may not be as disturbing to fellow hikers in a shelter or whatever. But these are the two that I'm going with at the beginning. I am taking a luxury item. I'm taking the Sea to Summit Arrows pillow. It's light, it's inflatable. And for me, I considered not taking it and just using a stuff bag with clothes as a pillow, but I tend to sleep better with a pillow, a real pillow. And I also figured if I'm not getting a good night's sleep, there's a good chance I'm not gonna have a very productive day, in the morning. So that's another reason I went with the pillow. And then my sleeping clothes, I have another pair of underwear, another pair of darn tough socks. I have Patagonia Capilene bottoms and tops, and also a Smartwool 250 quarter zip, which I think will be sufficient. But I also have a Patagonia Nano Puffy, which fits really well and obviously is warm. It's not as big as, say, the Enlightened Equipment Torrid jacket or anything, but it is small enough that it would keep me warm, but also be comfortable enough to sleep in. And then I tend to take all this and just put it in this dry bag liner back here. The last thing I want to do is have my sleeping gear get wet during the day. You're going to get drenched while you're hiking, but I do not want to have to try to sleep in cold weather in wet gear. So I'm going to put all of this in the dry bag and put that at the bottom of my pack. And then the last component of the sleep system is this Nalgene collapsible water bottle. But I am not using that to carry water, as many other guys that are be hiking the trail can attest to, especially if they're over 60 like I am. We guys tend to have to get up at least once, maybe more times in the night, to relieve ourselves and go to the bathroom. The last thing I want to do is get up out of a warm quilt and tent, go outside 20-degree weather and it raining or snowing, and have to void my bladder. So I am going to relieve myself in this nice collapsible lightweight bag, collapsible bag or collapsible bottle, and worry about emptying it in the following morning. The nice thing about this is if you trust it and you screw the lid on tight enough, you could potentially put this in your sleeping bag and keep you even warmer or toasty around your feet. Just saying. All right, let's move on. And as far as what I'll be wearing while hiking, I will be using the Ex Officio underwear and the Cool Renegade pants. I like these pants because they're very durable, somewhat water repellent. They're not waterproof, but they do tend to beat up rainwater pretty easily, and I can just kind of brush them off. Although in a downpour, I'm sure they would just soak through. I haven't experienced that yet. They do have the zippers right at the knee, so you can take the lower part of the leggings off if it were really warm that day. I'm sure when summer rolls around, I'll probably end up doing that. I just am using as a base layer the DSG, which is just a brand from Dick's. It's polyester, it wicks the moisture away, so I'll have that on as a base layer. And then over that, I'll use the REI Smart Wool 150 as my next layer. If it's super cold, I'll be using the Patagonia R1 hoodie. I'm sure I'll be using this a lot in the first month, but later I may be able to send that home and get by just with the other garments that I've shown. I do have a pair of gloves here just for keeping my hands warm during the cold months. I may send those home as well. And then I use the Injinji socks as a liner and Darn Tough to hike in. I also have another pair of Darn Tough socks that it will be in my sleep system. And then as far as shoes, I've been using the Brooks Cascadias for the last, wow, I guess 3 or 4 years. These are the model number 15. And I really like them. I went ahead and bought several pair. They've come out with a 16 model. I have not tried those, but I like the 15 so well that I think this is my 3rd pair. I went ahead and bought a few more, and I'll just have those as I need to trade out, and as I wear them out, which is usually every 500 to 700 miles. But I will go with the Brooks Cascadias. Moving on to my cook system, I'll be using the Z-Packs bear bag to carry all of my food in. It comes with the 50 feet of paracord to hang it, to protect it from bears getting into it, be it on a cable line or a limb in a tree or whatever it may be. So that's how I'll be storing my food. I am going with the Snow Peaks 900 milliliter container. I like it because it's a little bigger than the Toaks 750, which I had one of those as well. But I like this one better because you can actually put the 8-ounce isobutane into it. The Toaks will only hold the 4-ounce. And I tend to like taking the 8-ounce just so I don't have to worry about stopping and finding fuel along the way. So you get obviously twice as long using your fuel before you have to stop. And I'm going with the MSR Pocket Rocket. They now have a Pocket Rocket 2, and a lot of people use the BRS, and they are both a little bit lighter, but I've been using this Pocket Rocket now for over 10 years. It's never failed me, so I just didn't want to go and spend the money on another one, I guess, so I'm going to stay with this one. Lighter, a cloth, and then the Sea to Summit Spork. I tend to keep them in that Sea to Summit dry bag underneath there. So that's kind of it. I do like the Snow Peaks pot, which is a little different than a lot of other hikers. They tend to use the Toaks, but again, like I said, everybody's just got to figure out what works for them. All right. And moving on to foul weather gear. I'm going with just an old yellow frog tog type poncho. It seems to work well in the past. They're not as durable as some of the other outdoor gear. I have the Outdoor Research Helium 2, but I have to admit it has leaked on me in the rain, and so I chose not to take it. I'm just going to go with the frog tog. I do have the Z-Pack pants for the rain. They seem to work really, really well. I have one towel that I'll use for whatever I need. Obviously drying off after the rain might be one of those uses. I have just a basic Thinsulate type of skull cap beanie to sleep in or wear during the day if it's really cold. I have some just normal waterproof gloves for snow, ice, rain, whatever it may be. And I do have the Sealskins socks which I have tested in my last video. If you saw that for cold weather gear, they work pretty well in that my feet were dry. Nothing, bad happened there. Although I didn't have liners on that day, I probably should have. I thought my feet were pretty cold. It was, I think, 25 or 28 degrees the day I was hiking. So I'll have to be sure to have liners when I'm using the sealskins. And then I went with the Catula Exo Spikes, which I also talked about in that last video. Micro Spikes is another piece of gear that Catula makes. There's nothing wrong with those. Basically, the spike is longer and works quite well, but they're also heavier. And the Exo Spikes are not as deep penetrating into the ice, but they work quite well, especially for runners that need to run in the ice. And I chose to go with them over the Micro Spikes. The Micro Spikes also sometimes tend to get a lot of mud and debris collecting in their chains, and I didn't want that to happen either. So that's kind of it on the foul weather gear. So, as many of you know, I am going to attempt to vlog daily the entire Appalachian Trail adventure here. So I do have a small bag of electronics. I'll be using this iPhone, which is just an XS. It's not some of the more high-tech or advanced iPhones that they make now, like the 13. I have two 10,000 milliamp chargers. I have the Anchor, and I also have the Zendur. And I'm taking both of those just because I don't know in cold weather how much I'm going to drain the batteries. And it may be that I only need one of those, and if that's the case, I can send one home. I do have the RAV Power dual port charger, and then the various components to charge all these right here. I'm probably going to offload some things off of my phone and put it on this 256 flash drive just to help me save material, pictures, videos, things like that. And then as far as my night light, I'm going with the Nightcore NU25. It's a very good, simple headlight, but it's also very, very lightweight and doesn't cost as much as some of the other big ticket items. And that's pretty much it for my electronics. And the last set of items that I'll be packing for my thru hike are these. It just doesn't really fit into any major category. Obviously, I have a little bag of toiletries, medicine, tenacious tape, ibuprofen, razors, Band-Aids, and things like that. I'm going with the Sawyer water filter that I'll keep in that pouch on my belt, as I mentioned earlier. I do have a bag, a CNOC 2-liter bag, if I needed to carry a lot more water than I need in my smart water bottle. I also have some just tablets in case the Sawyer freezes or is not working anymore, or I lose it or whatever. I have some water tablets that I could get by with until I get to the next town. I have just a basic knife. I have some Purell here. I am carrying another little luxury item, this all-weather notebook and an all-weather pen that is waterproof, just to keep notes, people I meet, things like that. I have a bandana that I usually tie on the side of my backpack to use to wipe my brow or blow my nose or whatever else I may need. I do have an old trowel. I don't have the Deuce of Spades like a lot of other people have, but I like this one. I stayed with it because it has a nice handle on it, and the other ones tend to cut, so I stayed with this one. And I do plan on bringing my Crocs just to have some lounging shoes on a 0 day or at the campsite, or if I have to cross a stream and I don't have to get my shoes and socks wet for whatever reason, I can just slip these Crocs on and use those. And that kind of sums up all the items that I'll be taking in the backpack. The total weight of my backpack base weight is exactly 15.0 pounds. So I'm happy with that. It's not, the 9, 10, 11 pound like some of the ultralighters are aiming for. But I am taking some cold weather gear. I'm taking a little bit more electronics than usual just because I want to vlog. So I'm happy at the 15-pound mark. Obviously, with my food and water, that's going to push me right over the 20-pound mark. Probably 3 to 4 days of food and water. I'm probably looking at somewhere around 22, 23 pounds, but I'm quite content with that, as long as I'm below 25 pounds. So that about wraps it up for my gear review for the Appalachian Trail thru hike for 2022. Again, this is just what works for me. Everybody's different, but hopefully you got something out of it. For those of you who will be starting after me, it might be beneficial, or you might pick up some tips or advice that you didn't think of before. But thanks to everyone who's already subscribed, and if you haven't already, I would ask that you hit that like button and subscribe. I'm probably going to do one more video, maybe closer to right before I get on the trail, which is in about 2 weeks. And I'm going to explain the format of how I'm going to do my daily vlogging. I'm going to do a little bit different than most everybody else. There's some great people out there doing great, awesome videography. Jay Wonders out comes to mind, Traveling Beat from last year. But all that aside, I'm going to do something a little bit different, and that I'm going to make it almost like a mini documentary in some ways. So stay tuned. I'll explain all that on the next video in a couple of weeks. And thanks again for watching. Take care. Bye-bye.